Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a classic, The Lion and the Crane. But we're not just reading a fairy tale here. We're actually looking at a masterclass in how to keep kids learning. Let's dive right in.
Okay, so right off the bat, the narrator, old Mrs. Gable, throws out a massive hook. She doesn't just clear her throat and start lecturing. No, she asks, what would you do if helping someone put your own life in danger? I mean, wow. It's a classic Socratic hook, right? By starting with this really profound moral dilemma, she grabs her young listener's attention from literal second one. She's not just asking a kid to passively listen, she's asking them to mentally place themselves right in the middle of a high-stakes situation.
But, before all that danger actually kicks off, let's look at how the narrative is framed. We're on a quiet afternoon in Meadowbrook. Mrs. Gable is just relaxing in a rocking chair by an open window, warm breeze blowing in. Beside her is little blonde Lily on a stool and Whiskers the cat with these bright emerald green eyes. So, why does this matter for learning? Well, because creating a safe, comfortable, and engaging environment is absolutely crucial. It's the first step in keeping kids focused and ready to absorb complex ideas. This calm vibe in Meadowbrook, it's the perfect blank canvas for the wild story she's about to tell.
Then, boom. From that totally safe room, we transition sharply into the story within the story. We are instantly transported to a vast Indian jungle. And there's this powerful lion, feared by literally everyone for his immense strength. But right now, he's brought to his knees. He ate his meal way too fast, and a sharp bone is lodged deep in his throat. He's totally helpless, pacing in agony, his mighty roars turning into these pathetic, painful groans. For a child listening, this immediately cranks the stakes up to 11. I mean, a powerful king rendered utterly helpless? That totally captures a child's imagination and locks in their attention for the long haul. And to really heighten those stakes, notice how the story brilliantly drops the entire jungle into complete, dead silence. The other animals are just watching from a safe distance, eyes wide with fear. Nobody dares to approach because, a wounded king is still a king, and a lion in pain is incredibly unpredictable. This silence and this fear really emphasize the sheer danger of the situation, which makes the upcoming act of bravery so much more impactful for little Lily sitting back in her sunlit room. So into this fearful silence steps our hero. It's a tall white crane who had been waiting in a nearby stream. She approaches, and while her steps are super cautious, her eyes are filled with concern, not fear. By introducing a deeply compassionate character right here, the storyteller is helping children identify with the virtue of kindness. It's showing the young listener that empathy can actually override self-preservation, which, if you think about it, is a massive conceptual leap for a developing mind. Desperate for relief, the lion groans out this plea. "Please, if you help me remove it, I promise you will be rewarded. I will grant you any favor you ask." This specific verbal contract is the absolute linchpin of the whole lesson. By having the lion make an explicit promise, Mrs. Gable is setting up the narrative tension. The child listening now has a super clear expectation of how this exchange is supposed to end, perfectly setting the stage for the ultimate lesson on integrity. Now, if you really want to keep kids learning, you have to masterfully manage tension. And here, the story literally slows down, breaking the suspense into agonizing tiny steps. You can almost hear Mrs. Gable's voice growing softer. The crane agrees, but demands the lion stay perfectly still. Then, she gently places her long beak inside his massive mouth, reaching right past rows of razor-sharp teeth. Breaking the action down like this mimics exactly how a child processes sequential suspense. Every creature holds its breath. One tiny flinch, and it's game over for the crane. With a gentle tug, the crane frees the bone. The suffocating pressure is gone, and the lion lets out this massive, triumphant roar. But then, the energy immediately shifts. The lion's whole demeanor suddenly changes. When the crane politely asks for her promised reward, the lion looks down at her with this strange, cold glint in his eye. This immediate pivot right in the aftermath of the rescue perfectly telegraphs an impending betrayal, a twist designed specifically to shock the child listener's inherent sense of fairness. The lion lets out a booming laugh, and his voice is just dripping with arrogance. He essentially tells the crane that just coming out of a lion's mouth alive is her reward, and then delivers a chilling threat. "Be grateful you still have your life, and fly away before I change my mind." The other animals gasp in disbelief. This blatant act of injustice is the perfect hook for a young audience. It creates a stark, crystal-clear moral dilemma right in front of them. The promise has been broken.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core lesson for young minds. Look at the setup. On one side, you have the lion, immense physical power, but absolutely zero honor. On the other side, the crane, totally lacking in physical power, but possessing absolute quiet integrity. Visual juxtapositions exactly like this make highly abstract concepts like honor, arrogance, and integrity so much more digestible and concrete for a kid. But the crane? She doesn't even flinch. She isn't filled with fear. It's more like profound disappointment in the king she just saved. She looks him dead in the eye and delivers this phenomenal response. True strength does not make one great, O king. Keeping your promises does. She tells him he has his life back, sure, but he's lost his honor. This is the thematic climax of the fable. It cements for the learning child that moral courage is always going to triumph over mere physical intimidation.
Okay, zooming out of the jungle and back to the sunlit room in Meadowbrook, Mrs. Gable gently closes the story. Little Lily looks down at Whiskers, whose ears, by the way, have been twitching at every single turn of the tale. Lily immediately connects the dots, asking, "That means we should always keep our promises, right?" And Whiskers gives a soft, affirmative meow. This proves the didactic storytelling was a total success. The child was captivated, she stayed engaged, and she learned the exact lesson intended. So Mrs. Gable successfully translates what's basically a gripping jungle thriller into foundational life lessons. Measure greatness by fairness and integrity, not just brute power. True kindness, the kind that asks for nothing in return, should never be mocked. Always, always keep your promises. And respect those who help you, no matter how small or insignificant they might seem. Because, as we saw, sometimes the absolute smallest acts of courage make the biggest difference. As the afternoon sun casts long shadows across Mrs. Gable's floor, the lesson really settles in. And it leaves us with the ultimate takeaway from our source material today. When it comes to keeping kids, or honestly anyone, learning, stories are arguably our most powerful tool to teach character. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought, the very essence of what the crane taught the lion. Will you measure your greatness by your power or by your promises? Because character is always going to be more valuable than a crown. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.